Hey, I have a very different video today, something that I've never done before, but I've been kind of talking about it a little bit on my Instagram. But Terri and I wanted to do a mukbang video, but we wanted to talk about our careers because it's something that we get a lot of questions on. Terri actually has her own YouTube channel called Pursuits and Projects, where she talks about her aspiring to wanting to be a project manager, right, but her current role as a proposal writer. So two very different, but also roles that overlap each other, I think, a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so on her channel, we actually just filmed a more technical video talking about my career. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, check out the link in the down bar. I think I'm gonna put it in the cards on top if I can figure out how to do that as well. But yeah, today this is gonna be a very casual Q&A. I asked my Instagram followers what questions they have about our careers, and we're gonna take turns answering them as well as eating this amazing food. So we ordered some Korean food because it's one of our favorite cuisines, and yeah, we're gonna get eating and get answering questions.
And this is our first meal, so we're starving.
I know, I'm so hungry. Ugh, okay. So let's start with what we do for a living, if you want to go first.
So yeah, I work for a consulting engineering firm. We're based here in Western Canada. We pretty much service like cities and communities, transportation and highways and roads and bridges and things like that. And we also do survey. In my role at McElhaney, I am a proposal writer. I'm slowly in the process of transitioning into a bit more of a project management role. But I think that's kind of also why I started Pursuits and Projects, because I'm trying to understand both and bridge that gap. In my role, I currently work with bids, marketing, graphic designers, engineers, planners, pretty much everyone across the company. I even work with accounting and legal, and I pull information to respond to these RFPs, RFXs, and things like that. And I essentially help my company win new business. And it does get very exciting, and it's very deadline driven. So there can be days where I'm just so busy, and then some weeks where it's a bit slower.
In my company, I'm a marketing lead at a software company. We are a very small, I say startup, but we have been around for like just over 10 years now. But we are a small accounting software company, so we design an accounting software that is very usable and very easy for small business owners, because kind of the big players in the game right now are QuickBooks, FreshBooks, and although their software is amazing and is very encompassing, it's not the easiest for small business owners to figure out how to use. So as the marketing lead, as the marketing person within this company, my I guess role is to pretty much bridge the communications and the understanding between small business owners and accounting software. So that's what I do. Great. So we're gonna start eating, actually. I'm hungry.
Like,
let's fill our plates first. Get some of this. So we're gonna start at kind of the foundations. I've grouped the questions that I received from kind of when you're graduating, or when you're actually in school, all the way to applying for jobs and the rest. So I'm starting with somebody who asked, actually a couple of people who asked, what did I major in, or what was my degree, what was our degree? So do you want to start?
Sure. So when I was applying for colleges in grade 12, I was looking into a bunch of different things. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I ended up going into criminology at Simon Fraser University, thinking that maybe I end up in law or something like that. And quickly after the first semester, I realized that law wasn't really for me, and so I was just trying to find a faculty that encompasses a lot of different things, because I think that's the type of person I am. I want to do a lot of different things. I also knew I like writing and editing, so I went into communications. Through that process, I also started realizing I could take little other courses on the side and build a minor out of it. So I ended up going with digital publishing because it was kind of in line with communications, and I was really into writing at the time, so I decided why not go into publishing and see where that would take me.
So I actually started out at the same school as Terri. I went to SFU, and I started out with SFU communications, so that would have been my major. But I really didn't like the environment of SFU. At the time, I was dating somebody who goes to the other major university in Vancouver, which is UBC. And Terry, you can definitely vouch for this, but UBC has a way better culture and community. And that was something that I just feel like I didn't have at SFU, and I just wasn't happy there. So I personally actually chose to leave SFU and pursue an education at BCIT instead. So I studied marketing communications there, which is a part of their School of Business. And I graduated with an associate's, or I guess like certificate, I don't know.
Diploma?
Diploma, there we go.
Yeah.
So I don't have a bachelor's degree. I chose not to continue that education process. I could have stayed an additional 2 years and gotten my bachelor's, but I just chose not to and just start working instead. And yeah, I don't regret it at all. You know, a lot of people ask me, do I want to go back and get my bachelor's? I just don't see a need for it at this point in my life, because I am, you know, I still was able to get the job opportunities that I did, and I am, you know, having a great time at my job. So yeah, I just don't see it in my foreseeable future, but maybe if I need it in the future for whatever reason. Somebody also asked, how do majors and minors work? They're starting post-secondary and they're a little confused, so if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, so at SFU, when you choose a faculty, you're usually given a checklist. It's just usually 1 to 2 pages. I know for communications, every single year, so first year, second year, third year, and fourth year, there's going to be like a certain minimum requirement of courses that you need to take, and each of these courses kind of build out into a major. And there's side courses that you also need to take, which are called electives. I'm sure you remember there's like just pretty much courses that round you out as a better professional that have nothing to do with your major, which is communication for me. So I was taking courses like statistics, even history and things like that, and that's kind of how I stumbled onto my minor, because a minor is just a supplementary degree to your major. It just shows future employers that you're a bit more rounded out. For example, I know a really, really popular major and minor at SFU is doing a major in business and a minor in communications, because you have that really like applicable practical skills that you learn in business, and then when you do communications, it's very theoretical, and I guess that's why it's so popular amongst SFU students.
Another question that I got was, would you recommend joining a club associated with your major or wanted job? So I personally didn't join any clubs while I was at BCIT. BCIT, if you guys don't know, which a lot of you probably don't, it is the program that I took was a 2-year program. So it was kind of intensive. We took 8 courses per semester, like six to 8 courses per semester. And you know, a lot of my peers at PCIT did join. We had like a marketing association, we had a sales association, there was a lot of different clubs that you can join, but I personally didn't. I worked part-time as well during my studies, so I just didn't take any interest in joining clubs, and I don't think that it negatively affected me in any way. I think definitely when you do join the clubs, you are able to be exposed to a lot more, you know, professionals in the industry, depending on what the club does, but you're often exposed to a lot more professionals in the industry. You network a bit more, you gain a bit more technical experience in the sense that like a lot of clubs do, you know, case studies, they do competitions and stuff like that, which is great for building your skill set. And if you have the time to, and if it's something that you're interested in, I think it's good, but I just don't think it's necessary because I came out fine. Yeah, what is your 2 cents on that?
I think that's really the difference between going to school at SFU and then compared to BCIT, because a lot of the things that Angel learned when she was like in her courses, they were very project-based, case study-based. I knew
technical.
You did very technical, and like it's really skills that she could apply as soon as she graduated. But for me, like I was doing communication, taking courses on like media studies and like the political economy, and it was just like papers and essays, and I think that made me a strong writer, but I really couldn't like bridge the gap between that and what I would do when I graduated. So
it's very theoretical.
It was so theoretical to the point where I did join a few associations, like during my time at SFU after I graduated, after I went on exchange, I joined like the Student Marketing Association. That was all like project based, and we would be grouped up into like a team of 3, and we would do we would work with clients, and that was kind of how I got my first freelancing gig, because I joined the Student Marketing Association. I got paired up into, you know, working with Mintent, which is like a content marketing project management software company, and I guess I did well enough for them to hire me after I graduated as a contractor. So for me, it was more about community building. It was more about networking, and it was also about learning those technical skills that I didn't learn in my communication major.
I think the next question, we've already touched on it a little bit, but people were asking what led to your current job, and did you need a bachelor's degree for it? So do you feel like you needed your bachelor's degree to get to your current position? And then also, what was what do you think helped build your skill set into being able to, you know, get the job that you have right now?
I think preparation-wise, I really don't think you need a degree. Like, you don't necessarily need a degree in communication or business, but those are nice to haves. It was also about opportunity, right? Because I found the job posting through my communication co-op program, which, by the way, if you're studying at any university here, you should definitely enroll in the co-op if you can afford it. So yeah, like in my role specifically, if you do a diploma or a certificate in technical writing, business writing, you have a little bit of understanding of what project management is and best practices, I think you can excel. Also, you have to kind of come to work, you know, with a go-to attitude, and you're like positive and you're ready to learn, because I really think once you know the people at the firm and they trust you, it like all your background, like all your education and training, it kind of like is not as important as like what they think and know you can do at work.
Yeah, definitely. I find that although it might be daunting when you're looking at job postings that say you need to have a bachelor's degree in a specific, you know, major or in a specific area, that a lot of the times those are nice to have. Because even the ones that say like you need a very specific bachelor degree in this, or you need like a whatever degree in this, I find that a lot of the times when I applied for those jobs, the employers were happy to interview me and get to know me more, even though I didn't have that bachelor's degree. So for my current job at Kashoo, I'm pretty sure the job posting said that I needed a bachelor's degree in something marketing related.
Really?
I have a diploma, which is not quite a bachelor's degree. It's not as well-rounded, it's a bit more focused, but they were happy to interview me anyways and get to know me and get to know my skill set, and I was able to prove to them that, you know, just because I don't have that bachelor's degree, my area of study was also very, very applicable to the role that I was applying for, and that my work experience or my internship experience was also very applicable, and that it gave me enough experience and knowledge to be able to do that role. I'm gonna adjust this lighting because it's getting crazy in here. This video's lighting is gonna change so much, you guys. Okay, so lighting has changed a bit, but all good. The next kind of step in your process of finding a job, I guess, would be to talk about internships a little bit. I had somebody ask me what kind of internship would be good for marketing majors. So do you know, like, did you personally go into any internships during your studies, and did you find that it helped?
Yeah. So I actually did a whole like career story, and I talked about each of my internships in one of my videos on Pursuits and Projects. So if you guys wanted to hear it in detail, go there. But essentially, I knew right away I had to do some type of internship before I graduated. That's why I signed up for my co-op program. The interesting thing about these things is that if you want an internship through like, you know, volunteering associations, it really doesn't matter what degree you're studying for, because you could be studying in psychology or like philosophy. If you join the Student Marketing Association and you know, commit yourself to learning about marketing techniques and things like that, even when you graduate, you have a pretty good shot at doing something like that. But for me, I did it through the co-op program, and I moved to Hong Kong for a while in 2016, and I worked a series of like marketing and operations internships, and then I did an e-business internship at PwC. So I think for me at that time, I was still just trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Totally.
It wasn't necessarily marketing. I was open to it at the time. So I really just recommend trying as many things as you can while you're still in school, so that by the time you're in your, you know, 4th or 5th year, you know exactly what you want to do upon graduation.
So yeah, like I definitely think that the educational portion of it like helped. And for my program, like a part of our program, we actually were not forced to, how do I say this? It was a part of my program that I had to go through an internship. That was like part of the requirements to graduate.
Right.
Yeah, so it does help, but I don't think you necessarily need it. I think it's a great way for you to be able to learn industry, like learn about the job that you're going to go into and find out what job you're going to go into. But there are other ways that you can gain that experience as well, and it's great on your resume, but it's not a necessity, I don't think.
I agree.
Another question that I got was, did you consider pursuing postgrad education? So I touched a little bit about how I chose not to pursue my bachelor's degree after I got my diploma, which would have been an additional like year or two. But I personally have been taking courses ever since I graduated that have improved my skill set and built on my skill set, built on my like toolbox a little bit. So I've taken a UI UX design course. I've been taking coding classes, like web development courses, WordPress development specifically, and I've just been really I personally have been seeking out educational opportunities for me to go and learn skills that will help my career, and I know that Terri does that as well.
Yeah, totally. Like I've considered, you know, like I said, doing a master's, but a lot of the times, like the things you want to learn is already available online. So I was looking into project management, and I was currently in my marketing and proposal writer role at McElhaney. And you know, I just wanted to understand at an organizational level, like how does project management work? Like how do they select projects? Like who does what? And so I stumbled upon Project Management Institute, which is like the global standard for project management. And they offer so many different certifications, but I was considering the PMP, which is the Project Management Professional, and the CAPM, which is the Certified Associate in Project Management. And really the difference between the two is that you need to have logged hours managing projects from inception to closing to, you know, take your PMP. So at the time I was just a proposal writer. I was working on projects, but I wasn't managing them. So CAPM was the way for me to go, and so I studied at University of Toronto. I did an online course completing their project management certification, and those hours was what made me pass the requirement to take the CAPM exam. So I would say it took me a year, just because I had to take that course one semester, study for 3-4 months, and then, you know, take my exam in October. So things like that, I did that while I was working my 9-to-5, and also on top of my freelance. So I prefer doing that because, you know, I still have a consistent income. I just feel like I feel super I feel like I'm hustling, and it feels good, right?
Terri actually has an entire video on her channel talking about how she completed her CAPM exam and was able to pass it while working a full-time job. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, and you know, even if you're not necessarily trying to take the CAPM, all of the stuff that she talks about in that video is very applicable for any sort of like continuing education that you're trying to do, or any sort of exam. You're busy. Exactly, and it really talks a lot about time management, which is very important in whatever job you do. So if you guys want to check it out, I'm going to link that in the down bar. Moving past that, I guess we should talk a little bit about our process of, you know, getting our jobs that we have right now. So a lot of people were asking, like, how do I even get started with finding a job? Where do I go to find job postings? And how did we find our job postings, or our job positions specifically? So let's start with, how do you even get started with finding a job?
I'm part of the rare breeds where I actually found it through my co-op program. So I was still in my last year at SFU. I would say I got pretty lucky because I applied through co-op. I got that job, and then they offered me a position before I graduated. So that's one way, and that's why, like I said, I really encourage you guys to apply for your co-op program, or, you know, just get involved at your college, even if you're doing a diploma. Because I know you did it at Village & Co. So definitely do that, because you're building those relationships with that company. And you know, if they have an opening, they'll look to you first because you've already been there and
They've
you know their
trained
process.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's how I got my first position as well. It was a part-time position because, okay, so a part of DCIT, my 2-year program, one of the requirements is you have to have an internship or work experience within that program. So I did it at Village & Co, which is a social media agency here in Vancouver. And everybody had to do an internship, but not everybody was hired after internship, depending on the availability of the company, whether they needed somebody in that position. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but I was very lucky that I got along with my team at Village & Co so much that they tried their best to create an opportunity for me.
Yeah.
So I actually started out part-time at Village & Co right after I graduated. They gave me the position before I graduated so that I would have something coming out of school, which I'm very, very thankful for. But the job that I'm at right now, Kashoo, totally unrelated to what I did in school. I didn't get an internship there first or anything.
Yeah.
I found Kashoo through AngelList, which is a great job posting site for specifically software or tech industry. So beyond that, I also was looking at LinkedIn jobs. I looked at, I think there's Monster and Indeed are the 3 tools that I use. And they're just like, think of them as like a Craigslist, but specifically for job openings. And they're great tools because they have a search function. You can really look at, search up keywords of what kind of roles that you are looking for, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in tech, or you can even hone it down to very specific positions like content writing or stuff like that. So they're great. You can actually set up notifications for them to tell you whenever there's a new job posting in the specific field that you're looking for, and that's kind of how I found my job. The next question I kind of got that is very related to finding a job is what you should do if you don't get any responses from your jobs. Did you find that at all? Like, did you go through the process where you've applied for something and you just never heard back?
Yeah, that's probably only happened a handful of times, like maybe between 5 to 10 times, although I've applied to a lot of jobs. But usually, like, if they don't respond to your, you know, job application or email within the first like 3 weeks, usually they've probably moved on to the next candidate. And a lot of the times I realized that, and I would get an email response maybe a month later, but by then I already knew that they had chosen someone else. I wouldn't take that as like a defeat. Like, if you know that you haven't heard back between, you know, the first week or 2, you might want to give them a follow-up email, be like, hey, have you received my job application? I'm still pretty keen. And I highly recommend to always write a cover letter because it really differentiates you from other candidates.
Yeah, I remember you telling me when we were looking for jobs that one of your friends had applied to like 80 jobs or something, and most of them you won't hear back because especially if you're applying to very large companies, they get hundreds and hundreds of applicants, and sometimes they just don't they just aren't able, they don't have the capacity to reach out to every single one and be like, hey, sorry, you didn't get the role. And I found that too when I was applying for jobs, that there are some of them that will reply and let you know, hey, we didn't see you as a good fit, but good luck in your job hunt. But there are some that literally gave me no response. And I usually give myself, which some people might think it's too many, but I think it's it's fine. I actually give myself 2 to 3 follow-up emails. So I follow up after a week, and then I follow up a week and a half, and I follow up 2 weeks. So I just try to make sure that, if maybe they are getting a lot of applicants, it bubbles it up in their inbox a little bit. But yeah, like, it's very common actually to not get the positions that you're applying for. Like, I think in my job hunt, I applied for, I want to say like 20-ish positions. I interviewed for 5 and I got the 1. So, I wasn't even in a situation, like, I've had friends who are in situations where they've gotten 2 offers at the same time because they were applying for so many and they had to choose. But Kashoo gave me their offer, and I had applied to a couple more, but then I just took that offer immediately and I was like, I'm good here. So after you have gotten a job, or maybe while you're looking for a job once you've graduated, one question that I got was, is it worth moving out immediately after graduating? And I think a lot of people will have a lot of different answers to this question. I personally didn't move out until So I graduated in May. I moved out 1 year after I graduated. So I graduated in May. I had a position at Village & Co. And then I got my full-time position at Kashoo in September. And I didn't move out until the next May. And honestly, if it wasn't for the specific situation that I was in, like my little sister was graduating from high school, she's going to a university that is in a specific area. My mom didn't want to move our entire family to that area. So me and my sister actually moved out. So I pay half the rent and then my mom covers half the rent for her. If it wasn't for that very specific situation, I probably wouldn't have been able to move out because it's very, very expensive to live in Vancouver. And that's just the unfortunate truth. And unless I had gone out and found another roommate, I wouldn't have been able to afford my place and afford to live where I do. So that's kind of my situation right now. But like, it's very normal to not move out. Like if your parents are okay with you staying at home, that's a very good option.
Yeah, like I still live at home. And I've been working for almost 3 years now, and I want to move out so bad. And I probably would have if Angel didn't move out with her sister. I'd probably be roommates with her by now. But obviously there's a lot of things to consider, like, you know, like living habits and things like that. But yeah, I want to move out soon, but also I'm saving so much money by staying at home. Like I budget monthly and I see the money going into my savings, and yes, I don't have that like privacy sometimes or space when I'm coming home from like a really tough day and my parents are just like trying to talk to me. Like that sometimes really does push me to want to move out. But if you can and your parents are okay with it, stay at home as long as you can.
Yeah.
Unless you're someone who's, you know, super independent and you've always wanted to have your own place and like, you know, you're motivated by that, then do that. You know, go with your gut. Totally.
In relation to the whole moving thing, somebody asked, I want to work in and move to NYC, but I can't seem to find out how. Girl, that is all of our goal.
Yeah.
We all want to live in New York.
That's
Yeah, but I think my biggest tip or my best answer that I can give to that is if you're talking about specifically trying to find a job in a big city like that, I would recommend that you get experience, like work experience in your own city first, and build up your portfolio, build up your work experience, build up your skill set so that you have more to offer when you want to move to another city. And also, if you work in a city first, at least you can start saving and give yourself a nice like safety blanket for when you do move to a big city, because any big city, like I don't consider Vancouver a big city, but it is quite an expensive city now to live in. But New York, LA, Seattle, San Francisco, like those are all very expensive cities to live in and to move to. So if you have the time, really try to save and work in your own city first. I know you, if you want to go there, you just really want to go there and you have that, you know, you desire, but you know, give yourself like 1 to 3 years working and building up your, you know, portfolio and your savings first, and then before you even consider. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand with what we said earlier. Like if you are set on moving to New York City eventually, then, you know, work in the city that you're from, save up, maybe live at home if you can. So you're saving up money, you're building like financial capital, you're building like work capital, and then after like 1 to 2 years, you can, it's so much easier to like job hunt when you have that experience. Like, not to say that you can't move to New York City right away. Yeah.
I mean, if you have the savings and you're just looking for work experience, you could even, let's say, like grab an internship in New York first. But obviously then you have to think about like, how are you going to pay rent in New York City with just an internship? You know what I mean? There's a lot to consider. So yeah, I think that's probably the best answer we can give you. So the next question is very focused towards our specific careers, but this person asks, what are some of the skills that someone in your position should have? So for me personally, what are some skills that somebody in a marketing manager position should have or a digital marketer should have? So it depends again on the specific role that you want to be in, because even within marketing or even within digital marketing, there's so many areas that you can go into. For me personally, as a marketing manager or marketing lead, in my company, the needs and skills that they had were to be able to manage a website on WordPress. We actually used HubSpot before, which I had to learn. I was very familiar with WordPress, not very familiar with HubSpot, but it was like easy to learn, so that was definitely a skill that they wanted. Strong writing skills I think is very important in any marketing role.
Yep.
Unless you're in, you know, the data side or market research side.
Yep.
Strong writing is very important, so I think that's definitely one. Being fluent in most of the main I guess like marketing tools is pretty important, like being able to know how to use Hootsuite or just learning how to use Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Those things can be pretty important.
Yeah, so when I first started, like I guess I'll split up the skills between like technical and soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, like a lot of the proposal writing we do is done on Microsoft Office, so you have to be fluent in obviously Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Publisher, all those things. And when I first started, that was kind of the realm that I operated in. But I also, you know, used Photoshop and InDesign when I was in SFU. So that was something that I told them, and I was like, hey, do we ever do proposals using Adobe? And they were like, yeah, but you know, a lot of people don't know how to do that. And I was like, well, get me registered. Like, I know how to use it. And you know what? I can learn as I go. So our graphic design team usually does they use Adobe, but my role uses Microsoft Office. We use all of Adobe to make like org charts, graphics, infographics, things that can make our proposal, you know, pop and look good to the client. And the other tools that I would say we use quite often is our business management system. It's just generally called BMS, but I would say that it's kind of like Salesforce. It's like a customer relationship management software, but it was built internally. So getting to understand that software took me a while. So luckily for me, I think if the job title doesn't necessarily say that you need to know something, but it's always something that you can learn as you go. The other thing is, as I moved more into my project management role, one of those skills that I really needed to hone was Excel, and that was something that I just wasn't good at. I never had to use it in my communication major. I've never had to use that in any of, like at the internship level, it was very, very surface level. So now that I'm doing like reporting and like financial metrics, I've learned pivot tables and all these things that I never had to do before. So it's really just taking my own time and going on Excel Campus and teaching those skills myself.
So the next kind of question that I got was how to choose the career of your dreams. And then how did we figure out what we wanted to do? I guess we touched about that a little bit, but also struggling between choosing a career that will bring in money versus a career that is something that you studied for versus something that you want to do. I think we touched a lot about that. You know, it's a lot of people use education, their university process, to find what they want to do. You can use internships. You know, if you're somebody who really, really has no idea, I think the best advice I can give you is just to try. I know that can be time consuming and sometimes even financially difficult, because obviously education is very expensive, but if you truly have no idea, like the only way that you can find out is if you try, whether that's through taking on, you know, very entry-level jobs or internship opportunities, even like unpaid internship opportunities, part-time, doing whatever you can to test out different like industries and opportunities. What do you think?
You know, define dream. Like when I think of a dream job or a dream career, what that looks like to me is something that, you know, it makes me feel so happy. Like, and it sounds so wishy-washy, but like I had to really understand the last few years the difference between like what you should be doing or what you think you should be doing and what you truly are passionate about. And like I did the 16 personality test, right? Just I think that's really important. This is nothing technical at all, but you know, learning about your personality type really helps you understand like what you're like, you know, in a romantic relationship or what you're like in your career. And I think that really helped me understand where I wanted to take my next steps.
Just thought of this also, but if you are, let's say, like considering a lot of different industries or even different jobs, something that I've created myself on this channel and that I've seen a lot of people do is that they do videos called Day in My Life as a enter job position. So I do a lot of day in my life as a marketing manager, a day in my life as a freelancer. Terri could create one that says day in my life as a proposal writer.
It's coming up.
Yeah, so just YouTube it, just search it up, and there are a lot of people who create content already around different positions that you may be interested in, and I think that's a great way to get a good insight into what the day-to-day role is like, because sometimes, actually often, you think a role is one thing and it could be something entirely different. How did you figure out what you wanted to do? Like, do you think that, because I know you probably didn't think that you want to be a proposal writer when you first graduated, right?
Yeah, and it's such a underrated, very unknown career path, and that's because it's something newer. Like before, or historically, organizations like my company, they don't have a proposal division. Like the engineers, the planners, the biologists, they do their own proposal writing. They respond to, municipal and like government RFPs. And so these people are just so slammed, like they don't have time to write sales documents.
Yeah.
They need to actually do the billable work. So it's something newer, and like Angel said, I graduated thinking that I would, end up in a digital marketing role, or I would end up in an agency or a startup. And when I took this offer, I still thought that I might do a switch. And it's never too late, but I definitely didn't think that I would, still be a proposal writer today. Yeah, and in terms of it being my dream job, I wouldn't necessarily say it's my dream job. I just think that it's the little bits, like day-to-day activities that make up, a really good job for me. I enjoy doing the little things, and that's kind of what Angel was suggesting. You need to understand what the role actually entails and see if it, it's aligned to your values.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people take gap years as well. And when people say that cheesy line of I need to find myself, that is a huge part in finding what career works for you, because you need to have a really good understanding of
who you are,
you as a person, your personality, because that will affect, whether you choose to have a public facing role or a back end role, whether you are the executor or you're the leader.
Yeah.
There's a lot to think about when you're picking a job, and some people do it through trial and error, and they go through jobs that they hate and then they find the ones that they love, or they get lucky. Like I got very lucky that I love the job that I'm in right now, and she's gotten very lucky. This actually leads really well into the next question, which is how we got into freelancing. I got into freelancing, actually, I would say the first freelancing gigs that I got to do was because of social media, and I take on a lot of brand partnerships, as you guys know, on both Instagram and YouTube, and those were kind of the first passion projects / freelancing jobs that I started to do. And then I kind of looked at it and being like, and thought to myself, hey, even though I am offering a service as a influencer, I actually have a lot of skills that I learned from my job and from my continuing education that I can offer to people as well. So I started taking on opportunities like web design and content management, because those are things that I'm very familiar with, I'm very fluent with, that I've learned in my job and that I've learned taking courses and just from personal experience, building up my social media presence. So it actually all started, like, for both of us, it all started kind of word of mouth. So our friends of friends saying like, I'm looking for somebody to do this job, and maybe they're not necessarily like down to pay a ton of money because they're starting business, which actually works for, if you're starting out as a freelancer, you may not necessarily get the most well-paid gigs, but it's a great in to starting your business
and building your portfolio. Word of mouth is huge, but also, if you're already working for like a startup, which is what I was doing, I was just a student working for them, unpaid as part of a marketing association at SFU. It was just so crazy that I was a student and I was going into their office and trying to help them with creating their revamp strategy. And building those connections, and then asking them, do they need some contracting help, because that's really how I started working with Mintet as a contractor. I was already planning out their social media, and after that contract ended with the association and I graduated, they still needed help on an as and when needed basis. So just being available, being flexible, and just, I think that's also really important.
Yeah. If you actually go into those job posting websites like Indeed and stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of the times you can actually find freelancing gigs or contractor gigs is what I guess they call it in a career kind of standpoint. So look for contracting gigs, because sometimes that is a great way to get started as well, because contracting gigs, like, that's just another word of saying freelancing, essentially.
Yes.
Because you go in as somebody who is not a part of their company, but you're offering them a service. So look for contractor gigs, whether, and you need to consider, like, what are your skill sets and what are some things that you can offer as a freelancer. I think that's the biggest thing, is developing a strong skill set that you can offer, like you can then offer to a business to help them. So yeah, look for contracting gigs on job posting boards. That's a great
What about
way.
Upwork? What do you think about, like, sites like Upwork?
So I haven't looked into it too much on my own, but I know that there is, like, I think that there is some websites where you need to pay to be a part of their system. I don't know if Upwork is like that, but it could be.
So I signed up and created a profile maybe a year ago, just to see if I could get more freelancing work.
Yeah.
And you do have to submit an application and, like, upload a few pieces of your work, but and then the review board, like, reviews it, and it does take some time, but from what I gathered, it was free, but I haven't fully used the service yet. Yeah, but I haven't really gotten clients from that either. It was just something I was looking into.
I remember that I did that as well. I sent in an application. I don't know if it ever went anywhere.
Yeah.
But I know that there are other websites. I think there's one that's just literally called remoteworking.com. And yeah, like, some of them have a more intensive process of even becoming, like, a part of their service and a part of their, like, I guess, roster of people that they offer. But some of them are literally just, like, the same as an Indeed, but specifically for contracting or remote working. So it is valuable to look into. I personally haven't really had the chance to do that yet. Like, I find that I get most of my business through word of mouth, and it's just, like...
And that's already enough business
It's so much, because there's always, like, a friend of a friend who's starting a new business, and whoever is an entrepreneur, and...
Because your client base is small businesses and people who are starting out, so it is totally by word of mouth. Yeah,
so that's huge. Moving on from all of that, we're gonna take it a little bit more high level and just talk about motivation and inspiration. What is the first thing you do in the morning? Super simple, but I think it's, like, an important thing. At least for me, I think the first thing I do in the day really sets myself up for the rest of the day, but you should start.
The first thing I do is make my bed. I feel like it declutters my brain, and it feels like I know a lot of people do this, but it does feel like you've checked something off your list right away.
Totally.
And then I always need one thing that motivates me to get out of bed, because unlike Angel and, like, my friend Janice, I'm more of a sleeping in type of person.
Totally.
So just getting up and feeling like I will never jump out of bed. I'm just not that type of person. But for me, what motivates me is washing my face with my Foreo. It's weird. Like, I get so excited to clean my face with the Foreo that's what motivates me to get out of bed. So those are the main two things: make my bed and wash my face.
For me,
I'm sure she has, like, a much more, like, comprehensive
honestly
morning routine.
I make my bed as well. I think, you know, you read a lot of those cheesy quotes, and a lot of people talk about it in their books, but they're like, oh, it's like a stepping stone to achieving many more milestones in your life, and this and that, and you know, a lot of people talk about it, but I do think that getting up and making my bed, I just automatically feel like, okay, I'm already more productive. Like, I'm already more productive than when I didn't make my bed, because that was like the first task on my list. Also, it just looks better. It just makes me feel like I've done something and it looks clean. But also, it motivates me to not get back into bed.
I was gonna say that, because you're not gonna
jump back in
and pull the sheets and undo them, right? Because you put so much effort folding
them
or whatever.
Yeah. I think for me, another thing, because I work at home a lot, is just to change out of my pajamas. That's a huge thing for me, because if I work at home and I'm in my pajamas, I naturally feel like I am in a lazier mood. Whereas if I get into work clothes, like you don't have to get into a suit. I get into just jeans and a shirt.
Something different.
Yeah, something different from your pajamas. It makes me feel like, okay, I'm in like work mode now. I'm not in sleep mode. I'm not in Netflix mode. I'm in like work mode, productivity mode now. So that's huge for me. And then I just make a morning coffee, and that's kind of my little, like, the same as your Foreo. I look forward to making my morning coffees. I use an espresso machine, so there's a whole process into making my coffee. I have to grind the beans, I have to tamp it, I have to make the espresso, and then I steam my milk, and then I make my drink. But I really love doing that process, and like when I get out of bed and I'm feeling like, oh my god, I'm so tired today and I don't feel that motivated today, I can just think to myself, I'm like, okay, just go and make your coffee, and once you've got your coffee, and like the fact that your coffee will also give you energy, like that puts me in the mindset that I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. Last question. I can't believe we're finally at our last question. I know, it's so crazy. But the last question is, if you didn't end up in the role that you're in right now, what career path would you have pursued otherwise?
I think I would have been in a social worker, like, you know, in some type of volunteering organization where I feel like I would make, not that I don't make a big impact in my community, but I feel like I could make a bigger impact. And I'm a very emotional, empathetic, and compassionate person, so that's kind of the realm that I would be in. And then I would also have done a yoga retreat sooner, maybe when I was 21, maybe got my yoga instructor like license or certification, whatever they call that. I think that's the type of path I would have taken, you know, a less business oriented path. Definitely. If you know me, it's actually funny because like as you're telling me this, I'm like thinking about like you watch Terry's videos and you hear her talk about her position, and she's very, you know, driven and she's in this corporate environment now, and she's very like ambitious, but she's also got this very free, like very, like, I don't want to say wild side, but very like spiritual side to her, that I think it makes you a good balance at what you do now. But then there's often obviously times where she not compresses it, but like she puts that aside to really focus on, you know, her career and stuff. So like I can definitely see you in those roles if you weren't in like your corporate role right now. What about you? I have no idea. I have no idea. I used to really want to be in fashion, something in the fashion world, but I don't even know what that would necessarily be. It was just more of like a childhood dream for me, just to pursue fashion in some way, and I guess I kind of have with my social media, which is very cool. Maybe I would have wanted to do something that was more public facing, because I used to always think that I would be somebody who would be in a role where I'm talking to people all day and I'm really connecting with people. So the one that always comes to mind, I guess, would be I don't know, like being... When I met you in 2015, you were pretty extroverted. Oh, totally. And like I've seen over the years how you became more and more introverted. And I think maybe that's where you're going with this, is like when you were a bit younger. I was definitely, like I said, with the public relation role, like I always envisioned myself, and it's because I was very, very much so, like more extroverted when I was younger. So I did see myself being somebody who, like, for example, was a PR agent and who was constantly talking to people, dealing with media, going to networking events, and that was something that I really saw myself in. So maybe that, but so like still in the realm of like communications and digital media. But something that's very much so like public facing. Or I can see myself being somebody who is totally not into like the I guess like the money and the work side of things, and just wanting to travel and being an artist of some sort. And I say that take that with a grain of salt, because I don't draw, I don't paint, like I'm not
creative in that way.
Yeah.
But I think because I have discovered this creativity in me, in the work that I do, I can see myself doing, like, applying that creativity in a different way and not necessarily in a work way.
Yeah. Like your photography.
Yeah, like photography. So maybe I would do like freelance photography and traveling and maybe something like that. But it really isn't something that I've thought too much about.
Yeah.
Because
it's because you're so happy with what you're doing.
Yeah, I know. I do actually feel very fulfilled in my job, and I've said this before and I'm gonna say it again, but I feel really lucky that I am.
Yeah.
So I never really had to think about like, what if I was doing something else? Because I'm also the type of person that if I'm like, what if I was doing something else? Like, what if I tried this? Like, I'm typically the type of person who's like, if I have that thought, then I'm like, fuck it, I'll just try it. You know?
You would have done it already.
Exactly. So I would have like given it a chance already. So yeah, it's hard for me, but definitely maybe something on the creative side or more something that's like people oriented. All right. I just punched myself in the face. Ow. Okay. Big stretch. And yeah, a big thank you to Terri for joining me on this video. It's been so nice to actually talk to somebody and not just film a video on my own.
Yeah, this is so much fun. Like,
it is
I
a lot
had
of fun.
so much fun. I don't know if it's just like being a sounding board for Angel and vice versa, or like the Korean food that I've been eating. Like,
yeah. It's all been good. It's been a good experience. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so sorry about the lighting. I know it's changed like 500 times. I'm gonna try to make a better system for the lighting, so if we do ever film another video like this, it's a little bit better. But it is my first mukbang. It is my first real video where I sit down and talk to somebody else and not just film on my own.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've done
vlogs
not
don't
really.
count. So
so this is kind of like my first. So I'm still kind of figuring out the setup, the lighting and all of that, but it will get better if you guys like this video. So let me know and I will make more and figure my shit out. And yeah,
everyone's just figuring their stuff out.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I want to say that's like a good wrap up of this video. Just like, we're all still figuring it out, you know. Even though we are able to provide some insight, we're both still very much so figuring it out. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you did. Let me know in the comments if there are other topics that you want me to cover in this realm. If you want to see Terri again, if you have questions for her, please let me know in the comments and I will relay them to her and she can answer them in a video or just in the comments. Yeah, I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!
Bye, guys.
Oh yeah, that was so long.
I love the wherever you guys are in the world part.
Yeah.